Here we will see CheckButton Widget in Tkinter. The CheckButton Widget is a standard Tkinter widget that allows two opposite states to be represented, such as checked, unchecked, on or off, yes or no, etc., which is represented by the presence or absence of a check mark. Check buttons can contain text or images, and when the button is pressed, Tkinter calls the function or method related to it. General syntax is check button with parameter master and option, where master represents the parent window and options are the most commonly used options for check button. These options can be used as key value pairs separated by commas. Different check button options are active background, which is used to represent the background color when the check button is under cursor. Active foreground is used to represent the foreground color when the check button is under cursor. BG option is used to represent the normal background color displayed behind the label and indicator of the check button. Bitmap option is used to display a monochrome image on a button. BD option is used to represent the size of the border around the indicator. The default value is 2 pixels. Command option is associated with a function to be called when the state of check button is changed. When cursor option is used, the mouse cursor will change that pattern when it is over the check button. Disable foreground. The foreground color used to render the text of a disabled check button. The default is stipple version of the default foreground color. Font option is used to represent the font used for the text on the check button. FG option is used to represent the color used to render the text on check button. Height option is used to represent the number of lines of text on the check button. Its default value is 1. Image option is used to display a graphic image on the button. Off value is the associated control variable value which is set to 0 by default if the button is unchecked. We can change the state of unchecked variable to some other one. On value is the associated control variable value which is set to 1 by default if the button is checked. We can change the state of checked variable to some other value. Pad X option is used to represent how much space to leave to the left and right of the check button. Its default value is 1 pixel. Pad Y option is used to represent how much space to leave above and below the check button. Its default value is 1 pixel. Relief option is the type of border of the check button. Its default value is set to flat. State option represents the state of the check button. By default it is set to normal. We can change it to disabled to make the check button unresponsive. The state of the check button is active when it is under focus. Text option is used to display text. You can use new line character to display multiple lines of text. Underline option is used to represent the index of the character in the text, which is to be underlined. The indexing starts with 0 in the text. Variable option is used to represent the associated variable that tracks the state of the check button. Width option is used to represent the width of the check button, and it also represented in the number of characters that are represented in the form of text. Wrap length option will be used to broken text into the number of pieces. Different methods used with check button widgets are deselect, which is used to call the turn off the check button. Flash is used to check button flashed between active and normal colors. Invoke method will invoke the method associated with the check button. Select method is called to turn on the check button. And toggle method is used to toggle between the different check buttons. Here we will see example. To define a check button, first we will import the Tkinter as Tk, then we will create root window, then we will set the geometry and title for the root window, and we will add a check button with tk.checkButton for the root window. We will set the background color to yellow, width will be 20, height will be 2, border style BD equal to 3, relief as flat, cursor as hand 2, foreground color as blue, font will be Arial, active background color will be black, active foreground color will be white, text will display as click, justify left, and highlight color as sky blue, and pad X equal to 5 and pad Y equal to 10. And when we execute, it will create a window with check button with background color as yellow and foreground color with blue. Now we'll create a check button in Jupyter Notebook. First in comment line we'll write adding check button and executing different properties. First we'll import Tkinter. Then we'll add root window as root equal to tk.tk. Then we'll set the root window geometry 200 by 200. Then we'll set the title. So root.title check button widget, and we'll add the check button for this root window. So a equal to tk.checkButton with parent window as root. We will set the background color to yellow, width equal to 20, and height equal to 10. First we will execute this. So we will add it to grid. So a dot grid with column equal to 0, row equal to 1, pad x equal to 100 and pad y equal to 10, and we'll add root dot main loop and we execute this. It will add a check button. I'll increase the size for the root window, and if I execute, it will add a check button on the root window. I will set the width equal to 10 and height as 2, and if I execute, it will change the height and width of the check button. Then I will add the text on the button. So text equal to click, and I will set the cursor equal to hand 2, and if I execute, it will display the text click on the button, and if we move the cursor on the check button, it will set the cursor to hand. Now I will set the foreground color and font for the text. So FG equal to blue and font. So font equal to Arial. Size will be 14 and style will be italic. And if I execute, it will add a check button with foreground color as click and font as Arial with italic style. Then I will set active background and active foreground color. So active background equal to black and active foreground equal to white. And if I execute, when I move the cursor on the button and if I click, it will change the background color to black and foreground color to white. I will set the pad x equal to 5 and pad y equal to 10, and if I execute, it will set the x and y position for the check button on the root window. So here, to add a check button, first we import the Tkinter as tk, then we'll create a root window with tk.tk, then we set the geometry, that is height and width for the root window, and set the title, and we add a check button as tk.checkButton for the root window, then we set the background color as yellow, width as 20, height as 2, the text to be displayed on the check button as click. We will set the cursor as hand 2, foreground color as blue, that is the text will be displayed in blue color, then font will set as Arial and active background color as black and active foreground color as white, that is when we click on the button it will set the background color to black and foreground color, that is color of text, to white.